Hello guys. Welcome to a presentation concerning the tokenomics. My name is Jakub. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. I will speak about, that might be a surprise, how to build a house, then fundamentals and scams. Scams, that's something that doesn't happen very often, right, in crypto. So how to recognize a scam, how to prevent it, a little bit about gaming, and then dynamic modeling. So what's tokenomics and what does it have to do with building a house? Before we move to it, a disclaimer, am I an investment advisor? No, I'm not a financial advisor. So if you want to lose some more money in crypto, you should consult yours. Have you ever read that the ecosystem is powered by a token? Anyone? What does it mean? What does it mean that an ecosystem is powered by a token? It doesn't mean anything. It means literally nothing. If anything, it's a red flag. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been invested in tokenized projects since 2017, and there are high hopes, high expectations that around the end of the decade, about 10% of the global GDP might be tokenized, which is an interesting figure. So that much money have been lost in some projects or invested in some projects. Why would anyone do it? Why would anyone want to tokenize anything in a business plan? What's the point? You can either want to get more users, or to keep the users, or to keep them more active. Maybe you are doing it for marketing purposes, or you want to make more money, or to get the money faster. And these are legitimate reasons. These are legitimate reasons. So, of course, you might also tokenize something just because you want to grab the money part and disappear, of course. But there are legitimate reasons why you want to tokenize something. Now, if so much money has been invested, why can't we see any success stories? We thought about it in our team and we came to 3 possible answers. First one, blockchain is a bubble, it doesn't make any sense. Do you think that blockchain is a bubble? Probably not, you wouldn't be here. Blockchain definitely is not omnipotent, it's not a panacea, it's not a cure for any disease, but there are reasonable, relevant, legitimate use cases. So there is another option, that all the projects have been poorly designed or scammy. I attended a meeting of the DG of the European Commission last Friday, and I got the information that according to the newest statistics, 98.2% of the projects are considered scammy, which is terrible, but not all of them, not necessarily. So the last option is that they neglected the tokenomics. Imagine you are an architect, you have a vision for a house, you want to build a house. So what do? You hire a structural engineer to build a mathematical framework of the house to make sure that the roof does not fall onto your head, and then a construction company to build it. But in crypto, usually we can see this scenario. A visionary comes, they got a perfect idea for a project, and then they hire developers to build it, without making sure that you start building the foundation, and then the strong walls, and then the roof, and then the painting, and not any other way round. So The projects, if there were houses, they sometimes look like this. Yeah? Maybe interesting idea, original, anyway, but I would be frightened. The seals are frightened, definitely, they're frightened. Yeah? They're afraid that the projects will crash. What do these three projects have in common? Axie Infinity, Terra Luna, Celsius. Huh? Are there success stories? Not really. FTX, well, that's another animal in our beautiful zoo of failed projects. FTX is a major scam, I would say the most shocking scam I have ever seen in my life in crypto, and I've been in crypto since 2012, so I've seen Mt. Gox. I've seen a lot, but this is a whole new dimension. These three projects were considered fine, and they were working. They were working to some extent, to a point. What they neglected was the tokenomics. So Terra Luna was designed for the bull run. And with my colleagues and also with the advice of Ondřej Pilný, we identified problems in Terra Luna weeks or months before it happened, the crash, so we were able to short it. Not because we knew some internal information, but because the business plan didn't make sense. The same with Axie Infinity. It had poorly designed tokenomics because the rewards for staking were just too high, the game was not good enough, and also they had their own blockchain running, which didn't make sense because it did not incentivize the nodes in any way. It's very nice to have free blockchain with free transactions, but then it just doesn't hold. Celsius, similarly to FTX, was founded by a respected person with good reputation who was trusted, Alex Mashinsky, and it worked. We analyzed it quite thoroughly in 2018-19 already, and it worked as long as the banks needed to use it. As long as it was the best option for the banks to expose themselves to crypto, it worked. 2 years ago, or last year, even more, when the banks found ways how to expose themselves to crypto, to put crypto to their balance sheet, it lost the meaning. So there no longer were subjects who would be willing to pay 10% plus interest rates to cover the high yields that it presented. If you want to know more about these stories, my colleague Martin over there is working on 3 videos about these projects, how we recognize that there were problems. It will be 3 minutes long videos explaining how you can use tokenomics, how you can use mathematics, and how you can use so-called stack flow consistent modeling to recognize that there is a trouble in the project. Some things cannot be seen, and FTX was just a large scam and it wasn't really visible. But some projects you can identify as crappy months before they crash. Maybe if you need more time to scan the QR code. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go further. So, about myself, I have not yet really introduced myself. I started with crypto 2012 when I was writing my diploma thesis on alternative currencies, not just about crypto, on alternative currencies in general, but there was a chapter about Bitcoin. So I started mining and buying Bitcoin quite early, in the beginning of 2013, and then I started teaching about it, at the University of, or Prague University of Economics and Business in 2014. So we've got hundreds of students, some of them have their own businesses or they work for interesting cryptocurrency companies. And then later, with 2 people, we started Altlift, which now has more people, and we focus on tokenomics design. So when you want your project to work properly, we might help as a consultant to not just write the white paper so that it looks stable, but so that it really is stable to avoid any concerns. Then we use this knowledge of fundamental analysis of the projects for trading. We have a regulated fund in the Netherlands called Altlift Digital Assets Fund. And we also are interested in the gaming industry, not just because we are gamers and geeks, but also because we see a lot of potential in this industry in particular. Being able to, or having played games for decades, we learned some proper gamification, which then can be applied in tokenization and tokenomics. So are there any scams in crypto? Hell yeah, always have been, and now during the bear market, surprisingly, there are even more scams than before. Several times a week, people call me and tell me about their bad experience that they got scammed by someone in crypto. So it's very attracting these criminals. How can we tell a scam from behind? There are some red flags. The project promises profits. That is a red flag. It guarantees them. Now, I think that this is an outright scam already. That's an outright fraud. It's not a red flag, it's just fraud. Not clear who the people are, what they can do. So they might have a LinkedIn page, LinkedIn profile with fake photos, or there is not clear what experience they've got with programming or with crypto. They started with crypto half a year ago and now they are running a project that might change the world. So that's it. Before you invest in something, you should check the people and their history and the team. Fake attention on Discord. Fake attention on Twitter, but especially on Discord. Some algorithms or people just like to go with the wind or fly with the float with the stream. So when it appears that there's too much attention, it looks like, well, there will be a lot of attention for the project. For instance, a game. But it doesn't have to be this way. Usually there's just attention for the greed, for the tokens. ICO. ICO is a very bad idea. In 2017, I thought that it was a good idea and you can do it properly, and yeah, probably you can, but today I would say that the word smells badly. There's contagion in this abbreviation, ICO. So what does it even mean? You know, you have a bunch of people with no minimum viable product, and then they gather millions of dollars from retail investors. What do you think they will do with the money? Will they finally start working, or will they just, you know, enjoy themselves? They contact you. I think this is a red flag. When somebody contacts you and tells you, well, hey, there is an opportunity. There is an opportunity. You shouldn't miss it. This is another Bitcoin. This is another Ethereum. You should do it. I think in 99% of the cases it's a scam. When somebody approaches you and tells you, hey, maybe, my friend, it might be a good idea to buy some Bitcoin or Ether and keep it in your Trezor or Ledger, that might be legit. But when somebody promotes a project that is not even in the top 10 in CoinMarketCap, then probably it's a scam. Usually, and I have a big sample of data because the people are calling me. Usually it goes like this. You get contacted on Facebook either by a profile with a picture of a beautiful Asian-looking woman, and she tells you that you can send money to Binance, buy some Bitcoins, and send it to this great exchange, and they will take care of your money. And you do that, and when you lose the money, it looks like you are making money, but when you want to withdraw, it's impossible. So somebody else contacts you and tells you, hey, this was a scam, but I can protect you. I can give you at least 50 back. Yeah? But you need to pay in advance, and it goes like that. If you are a female, then again, you go to Facebook, and somebody writes you, I'm sorry, but I checked your profile and I fall in love with your soul. I think that we are soulmates and you should send some money to Binance and then Bitcoin to this beautiful exchange, and that's how it goes. That happens very often. FOMO appeal. Yeah? You should invest right now. You missed the opportunity with Bitcoin or any other coin, depends. And now it can be your opportunity. Large staking rewards, like the maximum I saw was 500% APY, which is ridiculous. Axie Infinity, that was promising 120. And if you knew when the dipping point will be, you could make some nice money on Axie Infinity. Yeah, but this is definitely a red flag. It's unsustainable. Probably we will have to reconsider what a normal or reasonable APY is because of the inflation. The APYs will change in the whole economy, so maybe they will be a little higher even in crypto, but anything beyond like or over 30%, it's just red flag. And this is also my favorite. That's like powered by a token. So the community will decide what the token will do because it's a governance token. We empower you to create something. Why would I do it? Why would I do it? What's the point? Like the ape coin. So some people bought very expensive pictures of Bored Ape Yacht Club, the apes, and then they were given these ape tokens so that these millionaires can start wasting their energy to think about what to do with the token. What's the point? It's the same with the metaverses. So you've got a metaverse, a platform, and then you expect people to fill it with some content. I think that's lazy. The world doesn't need that many, governance tokens or metaverses so that people have platforms to create their ideas. What people need is content. When you are in doubt, it's a scam. You knew it, you guessed it. Yeah. It's surprising how few people do this. Yeah, when they're approached by someone and they tell them, hey, invest in this, they should at least Google the name of the project and the word scam, because the first answer you get is, it's a scam. Yeah, don't put anything in it, just go away. It's a scam. Or when you don't have any answer, well, probably it's also a scam, right? What about games? Can I make money by playing games? Yes, if you are really, really good at it. E-sport is the new sport. It draws attention, people like to watch it. Why not? It's a good idea. But the idea that you will play a game like in your leisure time and you will make money is ridiculous. Play to earn is another world which is contaminated with greed and nonsense. Tokenization of computer games makes sense. You put money in an asset, so you can sell the asset, that's ethical, but the idea that you will win money or make money by playing games, it's ridiculous. You need to be professional so that people want to watch you. Or you can outplay someone, like when you play poker, that makes sense. But not everyone can do that. So there have been a lot of scams on a couple of seals. Why? Just because they are very cute, they are very nice. It's like a kiss to your soul. Enjoy the beautiful seal babies. Do you love them? Oh, they're great. They're so lovely. Look at the white seal. Wow, what a seal. Would you want to have it? I would. Some more seals. Great. Okay. What is the SFC modeling? Now you refreshed your brain, I guess. Good. What is stack flow consistent modeling? Why would anyone want to do it? Let's start with dynamics. SFC modeling works in dynamic time. If you ever studied economics, you will learn that there are some equilibria, some points, homeostatic points, when the system is stable. But the world doesn't really work that way, so you should unlearn it. Dynamics, lesson 1, for dynamics for beginners. Imagine that you are shooting on a disc. How can you hit the disc? How can you hit the disc? You need to think about the dynamics, about the movement. Where will the disc be when my bullet hits it? Not where it is now, where will it be? In order to calculate it, you need to do some maths. Your brain is clever. Your brain does it for you because you've been training this kind of thinking since you were a toddler. But in different areas, your brain is not trained, so you should really think about it and use the mathematics when you are trying to build a house which does not fall onto your head. Dynamics, lecture 2, a little bit more complicated. Have you heard about the predator-prey model? You've got a sea with fish and with sharks. If there is a lot of fish in the sea, the sharks will prosper and they will reproduce and there will be more sharks. But with more sharks, there will be fewer fish because they are too hungry and they will eat them. And at the end of the day, you've got too many sharks and too little fish, and the sharks will die out. That's the problem with the Ponzi schemes too, and you need to consider that. Like this. This is a predator-prey model for 2 animals, just the sharks and the fish. So, can you do it using intuition? Perhaps yes. What if you have more animals? Like you have wolves eating rabbits, rabbits eating grass. More problematic. Now the brain cannot do that. Yeah, even if you are trained, you just can't find a solution intuitively. You need to use mathematics and you need to use some proper modeling. Imagine a little bit more complicated system with more variables. Impossible. Yeah? You have feedback loops and you have a chaotic system which evolves exponentially. So how do we do it? We got inspired by Hyman Minsky. Hyman Minsky was an American economist who studied the instability of markets. This word is important, the instability. Your projects are inherently unstable. Once you deploy tokenization, it is even more unstable. It doesn't mean that it has to fall, just like a house doesn't need to fall, but you need to think about it from the perspective of a structural engineer. Hyman Minsky was predicting the housing bubbles, when the housing bubble crashes, when the feelings of the people, the behavior of the people changes from a rational investment to speculation and then to Ponzi. This canvas, you can see, comes from a program called Minsky, which was named after Hyman Minsky, and it was designed by Steve Keen. Steve Keen is an Australian economist who predicted the credit crunch in 2008. There are very few people who did that, who saw it coming. Steve predicted this crisis in the end of the 90s, and won a Revere Award for the best prediction. Using this kind of thinking, he focuses on the instability, on the possible problems. He doesn't predict or doesn't believe that the systems are inherently stable and then they will stabilize themselves on their own. They will not. Steve Keen was my teacher, tutor of my PhD dissertation, which I was writing under his supervision in London, Kingston University in 2016. And in this dissertation I was modeling alternative monetary approaches. When you change the way money works, how does it change the economy? How can we see some trouble coming? That's this guy. Also, we use other softwares, not just Minsky. This is Machinations. Maybe you know it. It's more for user journey, modeling user journey. So Minsky is more for the macro approach, and this is for the individual user approach. But you need to model the money flows. Stack flow consistent means that when money is leaving from somewhere, it no longer is on the other place. And you are concerned with the momentum, what happens. If you forget about the momentum and you just make some graph, like a hockey stick graph in Microsoft Excel, you are losing a lot of detail, and there might be trouble in the detail, like something just crashes. Imagine the sharks eating out all the fish. What happens? The fish population will never recover, and neither will the sharks, they will die out. That's what is hidden in the detail. That's why I called this presentation not just tokenomics, but tokenomics we play Minesweeper for you. We use mathematics to keep you from hitting the landmines. There's a crisis in crypto, there's a crisis in the whole world, but there's also a crisis in crypto. It's better to have another job, not just trading and losing money, but also doing something proper and useful. That's what you are doing as programmers. And I believe that the crisis is an opportunity, and the last bear markets in the cryptocurrency sector gave us improvements to the whole system. The first bear market gave us Ethereum, so Bitcoin or crypto was no longer just money or stable currency or whatever, reserve, but also something more, a decentralized computer, more auditable, provable system. Then we had problems with scalability. And when people were just greedy and they were speculating on the price, there was not really much attention paid to solve these issues. But in the last bull market, Lightning Network was created, and various layer 2s on Ethereum, various scalability solutions. Scalability now is not the major issue anymore. What I believe is the major issue, apart from fraud, is poorly designed tokenomics. And people should pay more attention to build the projects in a stable way. Just think about it. For many people, when I say tokenomics, it's just, so it's the way how you can rob the investor, right? So you think about how to distribute the tokens, how many you keep, and how to hide the fraud from the public and from the investors. But that's not the point. The point is to design utility for the token for different stakeholders. Utility means why you want to buy it. What do you want to do with it? What advantage does it give you? A good project, which is tokenized, should be working it out even without any tokenization. That's the first point. And you should always concern with the demand first. Why would anyone want to buy the token for any other reason than to sell it to a greater fool in the future? Because if it's just about making money, then it is failed from the day one. If you want to learn more about our fund and the strategy, the tokenomics, what we are doing, here's the QR code. And keep calm, and see you later. Questions? You can ask me now, or you can just catch me and ask anything about tokenomics. Sir?
You mentioned ICOs being generally bad. I wonder if you'd like to elaborate on that, say what you think can make them good, if you have examples of good ones, anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. There have been good ICOs, but the point is that it's very tempting for anyone to get more money than they ever saw in their lives, to just start using the money and focusing on the money rather than on the product. Crypto is a way for fundraising, but if somebody starts with the fundraising and then develops the product, I think that this is a red flag. So I always recommend to the visionaries who come to us, hey, finish an MVP, do something that you can show to the people to prove that you are able to work, that you are not just a criminal interested only in their money. There are other ways how to raise money. So when the bank does not want to support you, when no angel investor or venture capitalist wants to support you, maybe there's something wrong with your project, and maybe it's time to think deeper about your project before you offer it to the public. There are other ways how to distribute the tokens rather than just through the ICO to the investors. Why? Because there are different stakeholders in the project. And what you need to be, or in the ecosystem of your future project, what you need to be focused on are the users, so that the project is stable. If the biggest attention is for the investors, then the project will fail anyway. That's my point. There were interesting functional ICOs like NEM, for instance. It was even before it was called an ICO, but they paid a lot of attention to an even or equal distribution of the tokens, so that this would be prevented. Also, I believe it's better if you need investors, and that's quite normal. It's good if they buy the tokens, but then the tokens are being released gradually, like on a weekly basis or monthly basis. As the user base grows and they receive tokens for activity or spending money within your ecosystem, the investors receive money together with them. I believe this is way better than the lockup period, because a lockup period is a shock to the system. So when the investors buy tokens, and then this, like 40% of the tokens will be released in 2 years, everybody knows that something very dramatic will happen in 2 years. Probably the tokens will flood the exchanges. So with this lockup period, you're just buying time. the dynamic thinking, the SFC modeling, this approach tells you that you should think in the continuous time, in momentum, in the continuous time, not month 1, month 5, year 1, year 2, year 3, but what happens in the detail. So even the distribution of the tokens should be more continual. Does it make sense? Does it answer your question, or are you interested in something a little bit different? There are not many of them. When I'm asked this question, I usually say the Binance coin. And I think that the Binance coin is almost good, almost good. The only concern I have with it is the burning, the planned burning, like quarterly burns of the tokens. I think it conflicts with the Howey test. Which means that Binance coin can very easily be labeled as a security token, and there might be regulatory consequences. That's why, honestly, I was more skeptical to Binance than FTX from the regulatory perspective, because Binance is a good exchange, and it is a big exchange, but there are some real regulatory concerns about it, and they have something to do with the token. Yeah? But still, I would say that this works fine, this works properly. I believe that some of the games have cleverly designed tokens, and this will be the this is the way how to show how to do it properly. Because in games you have been doing it since like 2000, when the first micropayments appeared. People were considering these questions. How much money there should be to keep the economy stable. I was doing it as a developer in a game called Carabia in 2010, and we already had these questions before any tokens existed. So this might be the industry that will work. If there is any particular token you want to ask, you can do it later. You can just catch me and ask me about your token or the token that you're interested in. Is there anything else you'd like to ask? Anyone? Yeah, this is a very good question. Many of them are scams, and if it is true what I wouldn't name the guy from the European Commission, but if it is true what this person says, then 98% of all the projects are scam, and that would primarily, I believe, apply to games. Many of the games will not, will never even be created. You start selling the NFTs, and then the NFTs will give you some returns even before the game is launched. It screams Ponzi scheme, right? It takes a lot of time to create a good game. If you want a AAA game, it takes 4 or 5 years to develop it. So I think that the first AAA game which we will have will be Illuvium, a game which is working very nicely, and I even like it, is Gods Unchained. So there are some good games. Solar is a good game. We have a gaming DAO with 6 professional players, let's say, playing some games on the competitive level, not grinding like the Filipinos in Axie Infinity, but playing it on a competitive level. We have their VBA, which was now hit because it runs on Solana. Of course, Solar is an interesting project, and the idea should be applied in different contexts, like my colleague says, that maybe there should be something like fantasy esport. That will probably happen because it is a good idea. Is there any game that you want to ask about? Yeah. Steppen, for instance, that was a good idea, how to make people run. It's not a bad idea. Of course, there are problems with, cheating, but the tokenomics was a disaster. Starting with the fact that you cannot, you couldn't withdraw the NFT from the app to your wallet, which is like, why? And then how much you would pay to the runners, that just didn't make any sense. But it's normal, it's a very new industry, and there's a lot of mistakes. Now these mistakes and these calamities teach us how to do it properly. They teach us to identify the issues, and then you realize that it pays to pay attention to these. That's why I'm very optimistic about the future, and I believe that this whole situation might help the industry to be more decentralized and resilient and trustworthy. For instance, the fact that now few exchanges are claiming to have a proof of reserves using the same money to prove it, when you can see it in the blockchain. You literally can trace it. So it's very easy to prove someone wrong, to find out that they're lying. And this is a good thing that we can build upon. That's the point of the blockchain that we want to incorporate in the project. Not just because it sounds like, well, blockchain is magic and you can raise more money if you tokenize it, but because it has actual benefits for the users. Last question, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. Yes, sorry, apologies, I missed you too, I was writing mine. Someone tweeted me your slide that said all ICOs are scams. And they were mostly scams, but could be done better. In your opinion, what would make them better?
Yeah, I spoke about it a little bit. Of course, not all of them are scam, but if like 99% or 98.2% is scam, the rule of thumb says don't do it. The world now has this label scam. So now when somebody is doing fundraising in crypto, they should not call it ICO. That's my opinion, at least. The same with the gaming. If you are doing a tokenized game, you shouldn't call it play to earn, because this word already stinks. What I believe is important is to have a minimum viable product before you start raising money, and then you should not prioritize your investors from the users. My idea is that it should be beneficial for the investor to buy the token even if you don't expect the price to go up. So you need to find another utility of the token that would persuade the investor to buy it, to keep it, to use it. And you should prioritize or incentivize the users to use the token for the utility. As much as you can, you should prevent the wish or the expectation that the token's price will skyrocket, because that's absolutely dangerous. It's better when the token's price is stable and the token is useful, it gives you benefits, than when you just buy it so that you can sell it when the price is up. If you sell it when the price is up, the price will of course go down. And what the market sees, or what the other potential investors or the whole public sees when the price goes up. Not just that the token is not good, but that the whole project is not good. That's why it's crucial to build the model of the expected behavior of the tokenomics in a stable way, in the way that the token is stable. And there are incentives to keep the price up, to keep the price up when something bad happens, but also to keep it down when something wrong happens. Yeah, and I am completely aware of the fact that projects like Terra Luna had the same intention. That's why I don't think that it is an outright scam from the beginning, but there were wrong design choices, definitely, that could have been prevented if people used the correct approach, which I believe is stack flow consistent modeling. Yeah, I think it was 20%, and then they decreased it to 18.5. But that was the mistake. And also, when they started buying the reserves to keep it, it's like screaming, "Hey, I'm vulnerable, and I am expecting a run." If you are expecting a run, there's a problem in the first place, because you shouldn't be vulnerable to any run, because if you have 100% reserves, so there's a run, who cares? Yeah, it doesn't really matter, because everything is covered. When not, you know, Bitcoin was developed to fight the fractional reserves, and here we go again. Here we go again. That's why I believe in the near future, the biggest concern will be the auditable reserves, and maybe even something like decentralized keys to the reserves, so that the users or the stakeholders in the project can say no and freeze the funds before the situation revolves somehow, or is clearer. Now we have been seeing tunneling, stealing of the funds in front of our eyes, and nobody can stop it. So the reserves don't work. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your attention and for your great questions.
I think we're going to have another talk. I'm going to talk about DAOs and our voting stuff. We'll have a review, quick review at the beginning of the next session. If you haven't voted yet, we'll have an opportunity. I'm going to pull up the voting thing. We can go through each of the projects. So just like 30 seconds, if you want to go into your project. I'll only know the title from the top. But if anyone wants to do a quick 30 seconds on what they've done, just to last spread of intelligence around the room, we'll have that opportunity. So we'll start in 10 minutes. Grab a drink. And yeah, we'll start in 10. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, we're going to do a final review of the projects now before we jump in. It's 2 o'clock. I'd like to keep us on time as much as possible. I know we're all super tired, so very much appreciate your attention. We're going to stop. I think we've got 2 hours to go. The vote will close at exactly 4 on the dot. 4 o'clock. To the second. So people were racing over the line at ETHBrno². A lot of people didn't get their votes in on time because it takes a little bit longer. It's a more thoughtful process. So give yourself plenty of time to do it. Anyone who's drinking or anything wants to come over, please do so now. While people are turning up. Okay. All right, so this session title is called Quadratic Voting and the Future of DAOs. Sorry, mate? In about 3 minutes. So I'm going to... So in a few slides' time, I'm going to jump into the voting app, and then you'll have an opportunity. I'm going to look at your dev folio. I'll try and interpret it, and then if you want to throw anything on, you'll have an opportunity to just add anything. Okay? So the goal here is there's still some people who haven't voted, so you've got a last opportunity to shill. So shill your project as best you can in about no more than 30 seconds, and it's totally optional. If you think I've described it well enough, that's fine. Okay. So what's going on? I sort of ranted about it a bit earlier. But yeah, we're in a bit of a bad way in this industry at the moment. I have an AI version of me that generates tweets for me. It's kind of weird. It's a GPT-3 model trained on every tweet that I've ever sent. And I just hit refresh and it writes tweets for me. It's kind of nuts. It's not open yet, but this is what it's saying. Hate to break it to you, kid, but you're in a bear market. Is this anyone's first bear market? First bear market, anyone? Oh, wow, got some OGs in here. Second bear market. Who saw the 2018? Well, who was the 2014-15 bear market? Anyone? So yeah, you may be very well used to this. It happens like clockwork. But yeah, we're in one. But this is when the real stuff happens. The actual bull market was totally ridiculous. We had dog Ponzi's valued at $30 billion. We look like an absolute clown show, to be honest. I'm really annoyed with the way that things have played out. But what we're doing here is real stuff. So who was at Rachel Rose O'Leary's talk last night? Few people. It was midnight, Lunapunk. Very, very cool. I've tried to capture some of the sentiment of what Rachel said in the talks last night. The bear market is the time when crypto returns to its roots. This is the roots. This is as close to the roots as it gets. What went wrong? We handed over authority and power to bad actors. And not even that many. It was about 4 or 5 groups that basically took us all down. That is what centralization does, and that is what centralization looks like. We are not a decentralized space yet, and that's why it all blew up. So yeah, was that one in twice? Yeah. Crypto always abolishes its overlords. all these people get found out in the end. And yeah, the actual market does it to them. It all works out and we get caught in the wash, but they all leave in the end. You can look back at all of the clowns we've had in the industry. They all disappear. And Lunapunk can offer us a new moral and ethical dimension to crypto, and I hope we take it. There is an exercise in our voting system, which we'll look at in a second, where you can put what you think the values should be of what we're building here. So I'll show you that in a second. So to get us started, how are you feeling? Good? Yeah. I'm absolutely exhausted, I have to say. I'm about as tired as I've been in years. But yeah, I feel great. It's been great. Did you enjoy the hack? Yes. What did we build? So I'm going to quickly jump into our voting system here. You do not have to listen to me for the next hour. I would prefer you vote. So here's how you do it. It's fairly self-explanatory. If you get stuck, it's running till 4 o'clock and Matt is here to help you. Matt over there will help you do it if you get stuck. And the key to this is you can click on any of the options, and in there is a link to the dev folio of each project. Okay, so you can just click on this and it'll take you to the dev folio. I'm going to quickly whiz through them one by one. So Web3 account security abstraction. So this looks like an SDK for mobile apps. So this is a project that's trying to take Web3 to mobile. Anyone in the room want a quick 30 seconds on that? No? Okay. An anonymous voting system. So Rachel Rose is working on one of these as well, the DAO stuff. I'm super interested in this. If anyone wants to talk to me about it, please do so. Does anyone want to elaborate on the project at all? Stick your hand up if you do. MetaMask Snap. So this is one of the consensus projects that are associated with MetaMask. I don't understand it. If anyone wants to elaborate on what it is. Are they out there? Are they in the... So if anyone wants to... I know it's cool tech, and it's obviously elaborating on the MetaMask design. We need that. Who have we got here? Meta Rule. So this solves blind signing, scam detection, adoption, and contract credibility. So there's been quite a few projects that I've seen quite a lot of chatter across the weekend around stopping people getting rugged by phishing scams. So obviously transactions are very difficult to interpret, certainly for normies. So I think this work is exceptionally interesting. I think there's a few people working on that. I'm interested in it. Please come and talk to me about it if you want. If anyone wants to elaborate on meta rate. Quick 30 seconds.
Yeah, I guess I will just quickly say that MetaRate is our project, which is decentralized rating system for smart contracts. And it's kind of fully decentralized, so we don't use any backend. We're using P2P network for storing scores, and also we're using MetaMask snaps, so that if you're using some phishing website or something, you will be stopped right before the last border, I would say. So you'll be alarmed that some people send some negative ratings and said that it's fraud or something. So yeah.
Very cool. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Perfect. Pass it to Matt. Matt will hand the microphone to you if you want to jump in on it. The censorship game. Now, I'll instantly like the sound of this. because it's a role-playing game. It doesn't need zero knowledge proofs and features quadratic voting. Now you've sold me. Anyone want to elaborate on the censorship game?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so all I'm going to say is read the contract because it has more cool ideas than I can explain in 30 seconds.
Read the contract.
Contract, and if you want to play, hit me up.
Okay, you can go to the dev folio and read the contract. That's a good shill. Read the contract. Okay, ZK-ML proof. So this proves whether content was produced by a neural network. Interesting. Such approach is useful in various fields, for instance, generative AI and plagiarism checking. Interesting. Plagiarism checking was a big deal when I was an academic that looked after these things for many years. And I was telling all the teachers, all the kids are going to have their essays written by AI in about 3 years' time. It's really going to topple academia. I don't know they're going to deal with it. So does anyone want to elaborate on this? I think that's a very interesting problem that's been trying to solve there. D-Wallet, Judy or Sam, that's a very interesting name. Let's have a look. Certificates of authorities, driving license, identity, membership cards, sounds like a decentralized identity solution. Anyone want to elaborate on this one? Okie dokie. While I'm talking, feel free to dive through all the dev folios. Luna Wallet, like the name already. Luna Wallet's first privacy native Ethereum-based wallet with an inbuilt integration to Tor. Architecture enables users' IP addresses to be isolated from third parties. That sounds fantastic. Does anyone want to? There we go.
Okay. Hi everyone. So I think everyone was there yesterday, but yeah. So basically, our project is that we saw the problem with MetaMask that it's leaking IP address to third parties and to RPCs. So the problem is that they can link your wallet address with your IP address. So even if you are using a VPN, the problem is that they know that this wallet, and this wallet are using the same IP address. So the fact is, at the end, even if you are using on-chain privacy tool, you don't have any privacy because they can link it. So we created this wallet. So feel free to go on the GitHub repo. You can build it, and then you can use it directly on Chrome. Feel free to give us some feedbacks. We have a Canva presentation, and at the end we have our contact. You can contact us on Telegram if you are interested. We will be very, very happy to have some reviews and feedback about that. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would love to talk more about this. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, one of the chaps on the panel last night said something that yeah, really worried me. It's like, so I believe in permissionlessness, right? So Uniswap to me is an incredibly useful tool. And I think that's a good starting point. What we're building here is like super hard. So everything that we've built at Factory DAO is permissionless. Oh, that's what we're aiming for. And that's hard enough, right? Involves a lot of game theory and crypto economics and stuff. But what he said was that it's the IP address tracking and it's the metadata around your use of this can connect your privacy wallet to your doxed wallet, and then you're shafted. So very important work. Soika, security screening tools aggregator. Oh, I saw a bit of the talk on this the other night. I think this sounds cool. Interested in the Oracle bits? Adam, please do.
Hello, hello. So this is hard to demonstrate because the main functionality is on the mobile, so it's hard to present. But there is in the description should be the link to the client. So if you open it on your mobile phone, you will be able to use it. And what it does is that if you scan the transaction from the Wallet Connect, it opens in Soika, which is it's J, I think, Jaybird, and it sort of like notifies, or as the future functionality, we attempt to build a system that will notify you about the bad transactions that you are going to do. So it connects to the Wallet Connect, and if the other client opens the transaction, we are trying to figure out if the transaction is not doing to do any harm with you. So you can try it on Aave or any like existing application. If you open on mobile Soika, it will scan the transaction and it will tell you something, but it's not working against the API and the security checks yet. So it's just like the front end. But that's the meaning of like the future is to have the application that will simply keep you safe from the wrong transactions.
Thank you very much, Adam. Start with Soika. See we over here. Pass that on to Matt. Locked ether woke detector. Interesting. So woke's an existing tool. We're not detecting woke people. That's what I thought it was initially. Analyzing Solidity contracts. Project extends this tool with a new vulnerability issue detector and can detect a case when a contract receives ether but cannot send it. Sounds very useful. Does anyone want to elaborate on this? Okay, sounds like good infra to me. Let's have a look. Next, private on-chain line of credit. Very interesting. Sounds like it could be under collateralized loans. Main settlement, yep, Ethereum main settlement of digital value. Once ZKP becomes standard, enterprise blockchain will move into public networks. The project's first step. I see. This is very interesting. Anyone would like to? Yes.
So, hello. I'll be quick. So basically, this is a project that tries to show how the financial industry can start providing services that require some sort of privacy directly on-chain using zero knowledge proof. And the idea is that we gain all the benefits of on-chain benefits like interoperability, 24/7, trustless execution, while keeping the secrets or the privacy of the users.
Perfect. 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 Okay. Thank you. Now we've got MetaMail. Forget about long EVM addresses and experience the proper way of transferring crypto to the email. I remember this discussion from the other night. Not everyone has an email. So this is using email as a way to obfuscate addresses away or abstract from away from addresses. Anyone want to elaborate on this one? Okay. MetaMail, any last takers? Okie dokie. And no phishing here. I believe this is the last one. Shout to me if there's another one. So this is another sort of browser extension for this phishing problem. Here we go.
Can you play the video from 1 minute?
Yes.
For a while? Okay. So basically, it's a browser extension which is fighting with phishing. So by fighting with phishing, we are also fighting with blind signing because we are avoiding those situations of signing malicious contracts. Yeah, can you play it from 1 minute?
From
yeah.
1 minute, 1 minute.
It's a demo. It works like this. Someone is visiting, let's say, ENS correct page, which is whitelisted in our database. It works correctly, but if someone is typing, let's say, ENS claim because he's greedy and wants to take some token, and he's visiting this fake page, for example, and when he's opening this message, it's blocked by the extension. Yeah, that's all. You can stop the video.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We had one of these yesterday. We've got a project called finance.vote. It's like a prediction market. Someone set up exactly one of them, trying to scam our users. You could tell it was fake because it had like 800 likes on it when we normally get like 5. And 2 of them are me and Matt. Okay, so back to this. Have I missed anyone's project, by the way? Okay. So onto the DAO stuff. About 40 minutes. Feel free to interrupt me or stick your hand up at any time if you want me to elaborate on anything, or if you want to interrupt me and jump in. But one thing is that Matt and I have been sort of theorizing is, what is a real DAO? Like, when is a DAO not a DAO? When does a DAO cease to exist? And they exist in a trilemma in the same way that we have the scalability trilemma. And the trilemma is D, A, and O. So DAOs, each of these acronyms, each of these like letters means something very deep. And it's actually one of the reasons why no one knows what a DAO is yet. I collect DAO definitions. I've got about 75 so far from different people around the space. They're all substantially different. And yeah, it's not a settled concept yet, but I'll quickly review. Decentralization is about the diffusion of power. So if you look at this you can either look at it from a game theory point of view, or a sociological point of view, or a political point of view. You could conceptualize politics to exist instead of left and right, which means nothing. You can have it from decentralized to centralized. I think that makes more sense as a heuristic for understanding sort of life, the universe, and everything, to be honest. But if you think about, so the way I like to look at this is, when does a DAO cease to be a DAO? It's when one of these things disappears. So when you cease to be decentralized, the whole thing collapses and it's not a DAO anymore. An example, a 2 of 3 multisig. So my heuristic for this is, if a system exists as if of one mind, then it's not decentralized at all. It's highly centralized, because a single mind runs it. Okay? Now, what might be the case is, we could set up a multisig, and we're all friends, we're all colluders, right? So we exist as one mind, and that means we can rug the multisig. So a 2 of 3 multisig, you only need one event of collusion, and the game is over. So not decentralized. So how you can improve that is by increasing the set of signers and having a quorum or a consensus within that set. But the problem with that is that the more signers you add to a multisig, coordination costs go exponential, because now I've got to coordinate people all over the world. So one of the things DAOs are looking at doing is reducing that coordination cost, so you can have quick and effective decisions on a treasury, essentially. But there are many, many DAOs that are 2 of 3 multisigs. They are not DAOs, because they're not decentralized. In theory, 3 independent people of independent mind could be, right? So it's a kind of fluffy concept. Autonomy. A lot of people conflate this with automated. Yeah.
I wanted to stop you there for a second.
Yep.
The balance between decentralization in DAOs, it's personally one of the biggest problems I've seen in DAOs, because if you don't have any leadership or any, like what you just said, the coordination costs augment rapidly.
Yep.
But then you end up with political parties.
Yes.
Even. How do you balance that?
You balance it, basically. So politics is what happens when systems get complex. So if each one of these agents are humans, they each have their own mind, and then they each have an ideology and a thought process. And so you could have a high quorum DAO that where basically everyone's thinking the same in a kind of groupthink fashion, and it's still not decentralized. Like Sam Bankman-Fried could have run a DAO and say, hey everyone, give me $1 billion to ape into illiquid shitcoins. And because Sam was deified at the time, they would have done it. So yeah, it's a political dynamic. And I keep running through these. Autonomy. This means the ability to self-govern. It doesn't mean automated. So actually, a lot of the original DAO thought was about that these things were basically going to be like AIs, like totally automatons. So it's not necessarily much human involvement. But actually, a smart contract only triggers when someone triggers it, right? It requires a human input. It doesn't activate unless there's a reason for it to activate. Now you can get automatons down, but someone's made them. It's not automated, it's the ability to self-govern. So if we turned ourselves into a DAO and we were autonomous, no one could stop us doing what we wanted to do because we would be autonomous. DAOs do what they want. That means external power cannot compel you to do anything. You are your own group and you can do whatever you want. So that's autonomous, and it's basically freedom. So like, there's AI me again. The future is freer, more DAO-driven place. I think DAOs will drive forward freedom because you can exist outside of centralized power. Organization. Now, the autonomy piece. If you can be stopped, then you're not autonomous. So that's when your A disappears. If now Tornado Cash still runs, volume's fallen by 80%, but people are still using it. It was autonomous. Organization. You lose your organization when you stop organizing, when you go to zero, when you just stop. Coordination failure. If you're doing something, you're organizing. Now the scalability to that, you can move further up the organization spectrum by doing a deal with a nation state and wrapping your DAO in a legal contract, like the Wyoming DAO wrapper. But what they compel you to do is leave your smart contracts to be upgradable so they can compel you to stop. Do you still have an A in your DAO if Wyoming state can stop you? No. So yeah, not a DAO if you can be stopped. DAOs are terrible now. And I mean that completely, and I love them more than anyone in the world, I think. They're just awful. Do not look at DAOs now and think this is anything like what they're going to be. The biggest sentiment in the space at the moment is DAOs will never work, and it does my head in. We are very, very early into this. So, but why are they terrible? Weak trust models. Many of them fail and die in a ball of flames because some bad actors inside them rug the treasury. Or that people holding tokens can dump them in the market and rug it, right? So basically, what we need to move to is a system where people exist in a game theoretic equilibria, and they have to collaborate in order to win. If you can win on day one, because you've got a load of free tokens, and you've managed to like con some crypto gremlins into buying them off you, and then you can dump your tokens, then that is a weak trust model, because DAOs cannot exist if they're exploiting their users. Power asymmetry. At the moment, most DAOs run on one coin, one vote, and consequently about 7 people run the whole thing. Compound, it's one of the biggest DeFi DAOs. It's got 180,000 token holders, and 12 of them vote. One of them's A16Z, one of them's Paradigm, and there's a few universities who act on behalf of other funds. So the funds control Compound. Now that might make sense for a DeFi DAO because the people who've got the most skin in the game should probably control the monetary policy. But in many kinds of DAO stuff, if the core team runs everything, you'll never find any participants. Because there's no point. If you can't influence a DAO and the power is too weighted against you, then you can't win and people won't participate. So power asymmetry is a big thing. The chap before did a whole talk on token economics, and from what I could tell, he did a brilliant job of it. Token economics is like, it's a new discipline. I advise you all to read about it a little bit, especially if you plan to do any kind of DAO stuff, if you expect to ever have a token. Token economics is what captures the value in a system, but it also links in with the governance dynamic. And this is about creating, I call it the art and science of giving tokens value. Now, first you've got to fix all the failure modes that sends them to zero, and then you've got to find genius ways of getting people to coordinate using them and capture some of that value. VCs. Remember, this is why DAOs are terrible. In fact, this is why most of the space was terrible. This always happens in a bull run. Teams get exceptionally greedy. They take the VCs have made loads of money scamming retail, and then they give you loads of money. We totally messed up at this. We didn't want to sell anything without a real product. We could have taken silly money in January. Now we're very poor at the wrong time. But still, VCs own too much of the token supply. They control the game. It's dead on arrival. Do not give all of your token supply away to VCs. Do not give control of your DAO to VCs. I was invited to be a GP on a fund where the goal was to buy governance tokens out of the market and hijack DAOs and drive them all into the direction that the fund wanted to go to. So the people are who you want the tokens in. Who's going to build the stuff? Who's going to do the stuff? They're the ones you want in control. Naivety. A lot of people are moving into the DAO space, which is incredible. I love to see it. But they're coming in without much knowledge of organization and the entire history and canon of decentralized organization and governance theory, but also with weak ideas of trust. So we trust too much. We think everything's going to be fine. It might not be. And this is very much the lunar punk idea. They're solar punk. I considered myself a solar punk about a year ago. I think I might have flipped the other way a bit now. But yeah, this idea of on-chain visibility. Again, my AI me put this well. We're already deep into the era of on-chain visibility. It's the next frontier. It might be. But on-chain visibility is again, it's this thing that's a little bit naive. They are early. Again, don't look at what's out there now. Think about what they can be, which is what I'm going to talk about in a minute. They are under regulatory attack. So ETHBrno², which is a 20 million market cap DAO, it did some derivative stuff, and the CFTC sued the DAO by dropping they served them on the forum of the DAO and said anyone who voted in the DAO is liable for the fines that the DAO is going to get for running an unregistered derivatives exchange. If you vote in a DAO, you just criminalized. They are under attack. So yeah, this is a scary time. Rugs, I think the chat before said 98.2% of the tokens are rugs or something. I found a paper on this the other day. Someone did an analysis of Uniswap. 97.7% of the tokens on there were rug pulls. It's like empirically proven now. But the problem is, in the 2.3%, 90% of them are rug pulls as well. I think DAOs solve all of this. So DAOs can improve the trust model around token launches. So if the money doesn't go to a group of centralized degens, but goes into a treasury, that the people who put the money in very real terms control it, that changes the game. It changes the game. It means we don't have to let VCs control all our future projects. We can fund them ourselves. And that's what we need to do. The power needs to come back to us, and DAOs are the way to do it. DAOs are the future of orgs. I believe this to my core. I worked in organizational theory for over 10 years. I built institutional policy. I worked on national policy. The future of organization is DAOs. I'm just 100% convinced of this. If I fail to convince you, feel free to harass me later. Nothing more like arguing about DAOs. So why? Why are they going to be the future of organization? collective intelligence. Has anyone heard of the phrase collective intelligence before? Basically, there was this idea of the wisdom of the crowds. Like if you ask everyone the weight of a cow at a country fair or something, the average of the cow's guesses will be pretty accurate. Turns out that's true. It's mostly a statistical phenomenon, right? But what I mean by collective intelligence is this, okay? Us. We've just all worked towards a common goal in independent projects and directions, looking to solve some of the same problems in the same domain. And now we're going to use our own feedback to find out which project we thought was the best. So what we've done is create the context where we can filter ideas and practice, and decide and filter out the very best of the best stuff. Now all of our ideas are great. But if you go into a DAO, 99% of your ideas will be bad ideas, because the people who are giving them to you don't understand the context, or they don't have the knowledge or ability to be able to put a good contributions together. So the goal is DAOs should educate whoever is in their collective, but we need systems for improving our intelligence. Now, I firmly believe DAOs can solve problems better than centralized organizations. So I think DAOs can 10x our problem-solving capability in the real world. So I came into the DAO space with an idea to solve peer review. Peer review in the academic context is incredibly broken. There is so much we can do to improve research and knowledge formation on this planet. And I think DAOs are going to be in there. This is a new DAO definition from AIME. A DAO is a group of people that do stuff together. And that's basically what collective intelligence is. They're remote first. Who's a digital nomad here? Anyone? In and out? I think that's going to be really big in the future. I think a job is a trade of time and freedom for money. And some people don't want to commit to a centralized organization for indefinite period of time. People want agility, they want to be able to move, and I think there's an entire market of brilliant people who just want to do our job and live wherever they want. And I think DAOs have the potential to do that. Digital assets. Digital assets. We all think crypto is important. One of the root things is the way it disrupts finance and money. Digital assets, super important. This is again another AI-generated tweet for me, which I thought was a banger. This is the end point of the money out paradigm. There is no more money to pump into the game. The game is over. Sounds ominous. New architectures of trust. In 2018, I did loads of work building token economic systems and stuff for ICOs. I got scammed about 10 times by the kind of typical business bell end that sets ICOs up. DAOs will allow you to form a collaborative context without getting scammed by legal documents that you don't understand. There is a huge asymmetry in entrepreneurship that is weighted towards the people who have lawyers. Beware of people with lawyers. That's just a strong bit of advice. DAOs will allow you to form a collaboration without a shareholders agreement. Trust minimized environment where you can pool your work and money and time and benefit from it without lawyers. So I said, DAOs are not for avoiding the law, they're for avoiding lawyers. We don't like them, put it that way. Hyper-casual work. There are people who have, I have max 3-4 hours a week spare. But it would be cool if I could top up my income by doing an hour's work on something that was there. So I think bounty systems, if you're interested in developing stuff for DAOs, bounty systems are very interesting. Private bounty systems could be even more interesting. Who did the work? I don't care. Is the work done? Great. So anonymous contribution, something to look at. Sovereignty. The paradigm of DAOs is that they push freedom inside an organization to the absolute. You can leave at any time, you can join at any time. What you do there is entirely up to you. Extra institutional institutions. I think we will rebuild governments with DAOs. I think they can hit institutional scale. I think they'll be able to solve problems quicker in a more agile way than your average government does by orders of magnitude. So they're going to get big, and the people who run them will be the people who are best capable to run them. I talk to politicians now and again. They're in positions of power, you know, Treasury Secretary, Minister of Education, and they've never studied education. Every single Minister of Education in the UK for the last 15 years, and there's been about 20 of them, not one of them understood education. DAOs can find ways to weight decision-making power towards people who actually know what they're doing. So you can imagine our voting tools there, where your budget of voice credits increases based on your proof of knowledge and work. So that's how you do non-financial reputation. So you can weight governance and consensus towards informed consensus, people who know what they're doing. Hyperscale. If it turns out Gary Gensler has been partying it up in the meth parties at FTX headquarters and giving them in back doors into the financial system, we're going to have a global party. I think we should fund a DAO, and when he gets wrecked, we all have a party. This is the example that comes to mind when I talk about hyperscale. We could set up 1,000 parties in a week in parallel, because all we need to do is give a bunch of different people money to do it, and that's what I mean by that. I think you could spin up a DAO, do a gigantic problem in 1,000 different places at once in a week, and then disappear. So I think that's one of the things we should be doing. And they, for me, are the end game in crypto. And by that I mean they are the wrapper that puts everything together. Tokens, NFTs, smart contracts, DeFi, liquidity mining, governance, all of that stuff is the wrapper, and DAOs are like the meta primitive that sticks it all together. I don't see anything else major coming after DAOs, in all honesty, now we've got ZK and stuff. It's the game is going to converge into stitching things together with governance and decentralizing everything. We can do a lot of this stuff in a very centralized way at the moment. So you're talking about sequencers on L2s, you're talking about centralized exchanges, we're talking about RPCs running from centralized servers, all that sort of stuff. The next era of the game is decentralizing everything, and you're going to need DAOs to do it. So yeah, we're going to need a new financial system. It's going to have to be permissionless, transparent, decentralized, and it's going to have to be DAO governed. Again, this thing knows me. And the thing that has not been in my vocabulary as much as it should have been over the last few years, and that's why the AI didn't have it in that list there, because I don't talk about it enough. Because honestly, I've been a bit scared to talk about it. People have told me that my tweets get read out in DC in like regulatory meetings. The feds read my feed and I just shit post constantly. But the one thing I've not really talked about is privacy. But that's going to change. I think we should all be advocates for privacy. But it shouldn't be scary. The fear that you feel about talking about privacy publicly is the problem. The fact that we can't talk about this in a public space without fear of retribution is the problem. So yeah, A big warning, and I don't want to bring the mood down at the end, but again, AI me says my worst fears. This is some pretty scary stuff. The enemy is us now. The people trying to make the world a better place. Now, this freaked me out when the tweet coughed this up, because I thought, shit, I agree. There's people working on technologies in this space that could make the world a fundamentally worse place. And one of the worst ones, I think, was there last night, WorldCoin, one of the sponsors here. Now, I could still be massively wrong about this, but this thing terrifies the shit out of me. It may allow nation states to hash your eyeballs, put your personhood onto a non-transferable token that they can rug at any time. And with it, your access to bank accounts and all your records and everything. You can be unpersoned at a distance and never be able to set another identity up, because it's your personhood has been locked forever into internal, immutable power. Terrifying. Fine, we're picking up all our free shitcoins and stuff, but I don't think that's the game. Now, my warning is we should be extra vigilant, and for God's sake, stay away from biometrics, because that's the game. Biometrics, most of it goes into a centralized server. Their game is harvesting all of the eye data to train their machine learning algorithms so they can sell biometric technology to the highest bidder. The fingerprint market is a $10 billion industry. The retina market is going to be treble that. That's why WorldCoin exists. Now, I'll probably get sued by Sam Altman for saying this publicly, and it might be totally innocent, right? I know DC Builder was on last night, is a lovely dev, answered all my haranguing questions with great humility, and I have zero doubt that the cryptographers are doing anything bad. So this is what worries me. People might offer you a lot of money to build shit that makes things worse. And by worse, I mean max dystopia. The guy on what did the guy call it last night? Digital gulag? That we could all end up in a digital gulag, and it'll be shit like WorldCoin that makes it happen. Anyway, this is actually a kind of call for help. You've used Mint and Influence. We've got a whole bunch of these dApps. We're basically skint at the moment. We've ran lean for 2 years while everyone was pumping shitcoins. We built 7 different products and took them to market. And now we're poor when everyone's wrecked. So who knows? We might have to do an ICO. But if you're interested in any of this stuff, come and talk to me. We're looking for collaborators. Anyone who votes in our tech, by the way, will get some of our tokens on launch. So yes, that means free illiquid shitcoins for you. You'll get them a lot quicker than the WorldCoin ones, I can promise you that. And that's everyone who's ever voted in our influence tech. We've got on-chain data going back for 2 years. We're going to give a chunk of the token supply to everyone that's been there with us. So we're going to do a retrospective airdrop and a prospective airdrop. Everything that's happened in the past and everything that's going to happen in the future. And we hope to do this before Christmas. So yeah, I just want to finish before we have time for a little chat. The universe believes in encryption. This is a Julian Assange quote that we put on the... I'll try and get the full quote tweet up in a minute. It's pinned on my Twitter. But I thought this was profoundly important. And I mean profoundly important. Centralized power seeks to control us because it simplifies the world for them. The cypherpunks were fascinated by crypto because they saw it as the way in which as our safety net away from being controlled by people who are not on our side. So what you're working on is harnessing the power of the universe. So I taught number theory. All of cryptography comes from number theory. And this stuff is just encoded into the fabric of the universe. So the universe wants us to hide secrets from people. It's built into the fabric of it. The universe believes in encryption. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to say. Does anyone have any thoughts, questions, want me to elaborate on anything? Matt, behind you.
Talk as a game, check out the censorship game.
I do, definitely. I want you to show it to me after this. Anyone else? Any questions, comments? Oh, thank you very much. Okay, we're staying around till the end today, so come and talk to us at any time.
Where can we reach you?
Find me on Twitter at Dr. Nick A, or on Telegram at Dr. Nick A. Feel free to contact me at any time. If you're interested in DAOs, my door will always be open to you. Come and talk to us anytime. Yeah, so, and yeah, just come and chat to us, and I hope to see you all again next year. See you later.
We good? Okay. Okay, hello everyone. So, 12 thoughts on the future of Web3. The reality of the situation is that we will probably not get to all 12 today, and that's okay. I want to pause at the end of each section so we can take some questions and sort of open this up. But the concept basically is that this is version 1 of this talk, and it's what I'm going to call a mega talk. It's designed to keep your attention, and the best way to do that is to mix it up and to make sure that you're stimulated with new ideas. And the whole point of this talk basically is to make you think differently about this space and give you some new inspiration of what's to come. If anyone's doing a talk, I really recommend watching this video by Mr. Beast. He gives all of his secrets away in this video, and it's all about how to basically keep the audience engaged. It's honestly, it really changed my life when I saw this. So, okay, so I'm going to take a few questions at the end of each section, but we're going to move quite rapidly through this. This, like I say, is all designed to make you think, and hopefully to make sure we don't repeat some of the same mistakes in the next cycle as we've done in this one. So, you don't hear this often, but I'm going to be one of the very few contrarian voices in the room and say that we need to think beyond layer 2s. All you hear at the moment, wherever you look, is we should use layer 2. You know, if you go to the Ethereum website, they say that. All the podcasts are saying this too. Very interestingly, that most of them are actually sponsored by layer 2s. But reason one, I would say that layer 2s are not the final answer, are quite obviously security. Most of you will not know this chart, but I recommend going to it. It's on layer 2 beat. You're going to be able to go and hover over each of the different layer 2 chains and work out what the different risk profiles are. Why is this important? Well, we've seen what's happened over the last few days with FTX blowing up. And it could well be that if some of the layer 2s either have kept their tokens in FTX, hopefully not, or just they simply run out of money in the future, that some of the sequencers and validators simply will not be able to keep the lights on anymore. There's just no money to do that. So that's reason one why I don't think that layer 2s are really the be-all and end-all. And the question I always ask people, if you sold your house, which is a lot of money, which layer 2 would you put your money on? Personally, for me, it's none of them. It'd be on layer 1. Okay, number 2, horrible UX. This is how we explain to people how to add new networks to MetaMask. And maybe if there's some sort of very incentivized degen farming going on, then it's going to be worth doing it. But I think for most people, this is just not the right solution. Reason number 3, fragmented liquidity. At the moment, we've got this bizarre situation where we've got basically, there's only so many coins, there's so much money in the whole of crypto, and at the moment it's sort of dwindling every day. But instead of putting it all in a few places like we used to do, we're now spreading it very thinly across all these different layer 2 chains. And it ends up with this madness that we have at the moment where we've all got some money on Gnosis chain, but we don't have it in Arbitrum, and we need to buy an NFT on Optimism or something like that. And basically it's forcing us to use these bridges which are, well, as we know, very insecure and also expensive to use, and you're taking a risk every time you use any bridge. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So the next thing that is proposed is this idea of code that comes and sits on top of the chains and helps you basically aggregate where all your coins are and does that in an automatic way. And I understand this initiative from MetaMask, and I understand why you'd want to build this, but I still feel that we're going down the wrong road here, and this is not the answer to where we need to be. But the main reason that I really do not believe in layer 2s is because layer 2s break composability. And this is just not said often enough. Like, the whole thing that made Ethereum good in the first place was the fact that we could build on top of each other's work. We had DeFi Summer because we could compose these different DeFi primitives and build on top of each other. And on top of that, we can fit NFTs and so on. Well, unfortunately, that is just thrown out of the window with layer 2s. With layer 2s, you have to basically put your contracts on all the chains, and sometimes that leads to all sorts of issues if you don't use the right nonce. I just think we need to sort of get out of this mode where layer 2s are the answer and just step back a bit and rethink some of this. Reason number 5, network effects. When people say, oh, I can build Airbnb in a weekend, I can build eBay in a weekend, no, you can't, because the whole reason of that network effects stop people moving over. Any two-sided marketplace is going to have buyers and sellers who have always been there. They've got the user numbers, they've got the patterns in their head of how to use that product. You cannot make all of them switch overnight unless you do some sort of like sushi vampire attack, which is possible. But nevertheless, network effects means that basically the more users a chain gets, a layer 2 gets, the more liquidity it will get, the more developers it will get, the more composability it gets, and so on, which inevitably means that very soon on we're going to see some winners emerging in layer 2s. And it's very hard to say at the moment what this will look like, but I was talking to somebody at one of the meetups and they said it could look like Pepsi and Cola. There'll be like one or two big winners, and maybe there'll be some sort of like weird sort of chain that does things in a more esoteric way. Another possibility is that we're going to segment by security. There'll be some layer 2s that are known to be more secure than others, and others which are seen to be super high transactions, perfect for gaming, perfect for low value stuff, but nothing else. But whatever the sort of final situation is, I really think that winners have one job, which is just to not get hacked. This is the hardest thing of all at the moment. So that's a negative opening, I'm aware. But does this mean that this whole layer 2 adventure is a waste of time? Not at all. In fact, I actually predict that many of the innovations that we're seeing in layer 2 will actually filter down and back into layer 1. And the nice thing is that the VCs have paid for most of this R&D, which is quite good. But what I'm particularly interested to see now, I've basically written off the layer 2 thesis in my head. I don't see any future in it. What I'm interested to see is now more work back on layer 1 in the likes of sharding. And I think it's very important at some point we properly prioritize state rent. We simply cannot allow the blockchain to just continue bloating forever. And it amazes me that back in, I think it was, I can't remember the year, but there was a lot of DDoS attacks in Ethereum, and still all of that is still on the sort of hot SSDs, which is, no one has proven that at all. So my main sort of takeaway with this section is be careful out there. Don't fall for the layer 2 trap without thinking it through first. And if you are building on layer 2, beware of what the escape hatches are if, for some reason, they can no longer afford to keep the lights on the sequencer or the validator. And most of all, when the next crypto summer comes, and it certainly will, VCs have got a hell of a lot of layer 2 tokens to offload onto retail. So just be aware of that. Okay, so I'm going to ask if anyone wants to chat about that before we move to the next topic, which is why I think the next crypto summer is going to be mobile first. Any questions, layer 2s? Okay, we're going to carry on. Okay, mobile first. Why? Because there's more mobiles in the world than laptops, very simple. But also because the actual demographic split is that a lot of countries can't afford both a laptop and a mobile simultaneously. So what are we going to do? Well, the interesting thing is that I think most people in this room assume that the next sort of cycle of crypto is going to look like the other one. We're going to have a laptop, we're going to have a ledger, and we're going to have MetaMask. And I really don't think that's the case at all. But on the other hand, what do we have? Well, the mobile experience at the moment is pretty sucky, as we know. Like if you've ever tried to use mobile MetaMask, it's not very good. But something interesting has happened. It's actually becoming so difficult to build on mobile now because of Apple's App Store rules that this 30% that Apple are now taking, to me, is a golden opportunity to build a different platform with a different App Store and therefore reward really good decentralized apps with some money. So what would that look like? Well, the only person who's really doing a good job of it at the moment is the Solana phones. And I really do think that this is something to keep an eye on. It's not something to belittle. The interesting thing with this model is that you can actually sell it a bit like an inkjet printer with cartridges. You can basically say, okay, we're going to offer a really cheap printer, but we're going to make the money back on the cartridges. So this subsidized model could lead to a future where we actually carry, briefly for some years, 2 phones with us. We've got an iOS phone, we've got an Android phone, and we also have this new subsidized blockchain phone. So what can we do with this? Well, interestingly, As a community, as an Ethereum community, I think first of all, we need to go and support the initiatives that are currently happening around mobile. That's the first thing. But then I think some of us, we really need to get together, and I include the Ethereum Foundation here, because I think we need to start thinking about a decentralized app store. At the moment, the problem with mobile is that we're not thinking outside the box enough. Even with the Ethereum initiative, we've still got these islands of data, these little app squares that don't talk to each other. And I think it's time that we start thinking beyond apps and beyond squares and start thinking more in terms of decentralized services and interfaces that sit on top. And in fact, if anyone's more interested in this, I've done a whole interview about it at the Bankless Academy. The link is on my website, owenbarnes.com. And basically this talks about how we can go beyond the app square model and start thinking more about a whole new phone experience where decentralized services is at the heart of it. Okay, if we want to make more people use the Ethereum phone, we've got to think differently, and that involves open protocols. So, anyone want to talk about the phone before we move on to open protocols? Nope. Okay. So, is crypto over? Will it ever come back? This is what my friends ask me all the time. And my response is always, we're not done until all the Web 2 monopolies are eventually broken and we eventually replace them all with decentralized open protocols. This is the way I think the world will go. Now, early on, basically, in the start of the internet, we had a lot of open protocols. Everything was TCP/IP, DNS, IMAP, and POP, and they're serving as well still to this very day. In fact, email is such a good analogy of how we should be building apps, where we have multiple front ends and multiple back ends, but they're all sharing the same open protocol. So the good news is we're starting to see this now in the blockchain. The best example of this is Lens protocol, where we've now got a team who's set out an actual API, and on top of that pretty stable API, it's still changing, we've now got multiple clients. This is definitely the way forward. Another example is Liquidity protocol, who have set out from the very start not to make a front end, which I thought was a very bold move. And again, we've got various different interfaces that you can use to access that. But interestingly, what came out in Lisbon was this new thing, again on Solana, very interestingly, basically a new protocol for ride sharing, and it's called the Trip protocol. Now, again, I would say to all the Ethereum people in this room, and I count myself in that, we need to start thinking big. We need to start thinking in terms of how do we do open protocols, not just for Twitter, like I think Lens is a good one, but how do we start replacing things like Airbnb? What about where you go into a restaurant and we have this bizarre situation at the moment where you have to download 20 different apps to scan the QR code on the table? That should be an open protocol. Okay, so the nice thing is that we don't have to build the entire thing ourselves. Rebuilding Airbnb the old way would have mean going to the VCs, getting lots of money, and building the whole stack. Now, the nice thing is with Web3, because of composability, we can build each individual part of these things as separate companies, which all communicate and all work together on the blockchain using open protocols. So composability and open protocols together allow us to build horizontally. Okay, there's a big talk I did about this 4 years ago at Web Summit, and it's all about how much we need open protocols. This was done before anything like Lens existed, which I'm really pleased to see things are moving in that way. So before we move on to what is the blockchain actually good for, anyone got any questions on open protocols? No, we're good. Okay, let's use the blockchain for what it's actually good for. Truth is, blockchains are terrible at most things. In fact, they're not private yet, although lots of people are working very hard on that, and I'm glad to see it. They're very costly to use compared to something like AWS. They use more power. It's just the fact you're processing on multiple machines, and they are more complicated to work with. So why would anyone use one? Well, the reality, of course, as we know, is that sometimes you really need a permissionless, censorship-resistant way of transacting. And that, at the moment, is the main use case. In fact, I would say that blockchains at the moment are perfect for hostile environments. However, there's a few other things that I think get overlooked. One is neutrality. One of the ways I explain the blockchain to people is I say, imagine an airport, and in the airport, you've got various airlines all competing with each other. You've got the airport itself, and then you've got the support companies, like the people who are coming to bring the food in, and so on. Where would we build a system that allows all of these companies to talk to each other? Would we build it on AWS? Well, in the past, people did, and then something interesting happened. Amazon entered the market as an airline. So now they've got a horse in the race. So neutrality is something that's really overlooked. And I think Ethereum is the most neutral blockchain you can build these sorts of systems on. It just is. So that's a big thing that we need to really double down on. Another is transparency. One of the things I'm very happy to do is be an advisor to Doing Good. These are the organizers of ETH Barcelona, amazing conference and an amazing team. And Doing Good have done a lot when it comes to giving and impact giving in charities. But even them, and I would say they're furthest ahead of anyone, has not done what needs to be done, which is we need completely transparent charities. So you can trace every single pound that goes in, or every dollar, every euro, and you can follow the money wherever it goes. As an experiment, I just thought it'd be a good idea to go to the Cancer Research website and look at their books from last year. And interestingly, 34 people get paid more than £100,000 at this charity, which I thought was interesting. But of course, that's only the tip of the iceberg. What we want to do is when we give to charities is follow every single cent. And we want to know how much ends on company cars, how much is going to golfing holidays, how much is going to events. So no one has built this yet. There's a wide open market for someone to build something that tracks everything from the inside out. So I predict that one day all charities and public institutions will run on the blockchain, because eventually when people understand this level of transparency, they will demand it and nothing else will do. But how do we square this with the sort of privacy that we're all looking for? Well, this is my take on it. Well, if you're a private individual, everything should be encrypted, there should be no KYC, and what you do with your money is completely up to you. That's end of story. But if you're a public institution, we should flip that and say that everything should be transparent. We should be able to go into the books of every school, every hospital, public hospital, and work out where our taxpayer money is going. Okay, so next up is staking and slashing. Again, it's not used very well at the moment. We use it for DeFi protocols and validators, but we don't use it for anything else. But what about if we could walk down a street and stay at somebody's house for free? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, if we had our reputation on the blockchain and we were able to put some USDC up as collateral, as a stake, then maybe some unknown stranger who likes our profile, likes our reputation, is willing to actually let us stay overnight for free. But of course, the thing is that you will be able to then slash that stake if you then end up trashing that place or doing something negative. Another sort of use case for this idea is to test drive a new job. So at the moment, if you walk into a coffee shop and you want to be trained to make latte art, no one's going to put you in the front of a customer from day one. But if you're willing to stake some money, which you will get back if everything goes to plan, maybe it'll be different. And then if we combine some of these things together, we can come up with whole new use cases that nobody's talking about at the moment. One I think I would love to see is a way of buying a house and trying it before I buy it. To me, it's absolute madness that the biggest purchase in your life is something that you just do on a whim and you hope that it's not going to be too noisy and the neighbors are going to be okay. Wouldn't it be nice if you could actually stake something and then in a provable neutral system, you could try out a house before you end up buying it? So my message here is to let's get creative. Let's start using the blockchain for bigger things that actually lean into the properties of it. And yeah, that's the end of this section. The next section is Web3 companies need to understand emotions. Anyone want to talk about any of the blockchain stuff before we move on? I think we're good. Okay, Web3 companies need to understand emotions. Why should I use your blockchain? I hear that lots of people ask that. I always ask that for layer 1s and layer 2s. And normally they say something like, because we have the best technology, as if developers are going away making a spreadsheet with all the pros and cons of one blockchain versus another. Now, sometimes it is useful to do this, and if you really have no emotional feelings about what A or B, this actually is quite helpful. But primarily what developers do is the same as every other human on Earth. They make decisions based on emotions, not rationality. This is why every car advert in the world look like this. It's you being free on a mountain, driving your car with no other cars on the road. road, because they're selling you the sense of freedom rather than the actual oil and the tires and things like that. Without exception, always people do things, whether it's get a new girlfriend, get a new job, or buy a new product, or build on a blockchain for one good reason, which is it makes them feel better. They think that this is the best way forward in life. So what influences our emotions? Well, the interesting thing is that you can spend as much money as you want marketing your blockchain, your layer 2, your layer 1. But if for some reason the general population don't like the founder, or you don't like the UI, or you just can't understand the product in any way, it doesn't really matter, because we can't care about something we don't understand. And a good example here is Filecoin and Arweave. I've been going to lots of these hackathons this year, and I've noticed so many teams building on Arweave, and interestingly, nobody I've met, and I'm sure people are, but nobody I've met is building on Filecoin. And it's interesting, if you look at the different websites and look at the emotional offering here, Filecoin is like, well, we do a bit of everything, very interesting, but interestingly with Arweave, they're basically giving you a different value proposition. They're basically saying, if you give us some money, we're going to store your data permanently, end of story, and what we're actually selling you is peace of mind. And I think this is super powerful. Like if we actually start looking at our home pages and start thinking, what are we actually selling people emotionally, we'll start redesigning them for the better. So make sure your product is easy to understand. And then also think about how people are going to feel using your product. One of the interesting things that we've all had to deal with, if anyone works on Polkadot, is this thing, which is the most capable UI. It's a one up from LF0, and I give it that. The most capable UI, but also if you've ever tried to stake any coins in this, you feel like tearing your eyeballs out. It's just none of the golden paths through the app have ever been optimized. So again, it's how does it make you feel? Keep asking that question. But what do you do if you've got lots of money and nobody cares about your product? Because a lot of companies did raise lots of money in the last bull run. Well, I'm going to move on to clueless things that Web3 companies do when they've got lots of money but nobody uses their products. Say no more. Twitter advertising and this type of advertising, come on, like what is this going to do? Another one that really annoys me is totally thoughtless swag. It's like, let's get a black t-shirt and put a white logo on it. Great. Rushing, now if your swag's good and it's like, is it like the quality of ETHBrno² or something like that, then fair enough. But I see too much of this, and of course it just ends in the trash. Some bad companies, if they don't know what they're doing, they will say things like, well, we're going to employ a marketing person and they have to write 3 blog posts every week and tweet once a day. That's on their job title. It's like, come on, nobody's reading it. And it doesn't matter how many blog posts you actually write if nobody cares. The other thing that the bad companies do when they really have no clue and nobody's using them is they get more corporate. They start introducing more processes, they start adding job titles and status and all these sorts of things. They start going to these corporate events hoping that the corporates are going to save them. And then the most controversial thing I can say is they offer grants. Some of them offer them like candy, and we all know who they are. Now, grants are not necessarily a bad thing. If you think about when Vitalik gave Hayden some money to work on Uniswap, that became, ultimately, it became a business, but it's also, we could say, it became a good public good. And I think if you're giving grants away to public goods, that's absolutely fine by me. But most of the layer 1s and layer 2s aren't doing that. They're basically saying, you don't actually want to use us, but here's some money to change your mind. And I think the problem with this is that developers are very smart and they talk to each other very well. And if they wanted to use your chain, they already will. Spending money to get developers in, to give them money, only for them to then get the money and then move back to Ethereum or something like that, is a complete waste of money. Okay, so how do you actually make people care about what you're building? So I think we should focus on 2 things relentlessly, vision and values. The way to think about vision is that vision expands. Your vision as a company is what you want to do in the world, how you want to change the world for the better. Think of it as a state change. What's the end goal? And then values contract how you do that. Values are, well, we can do that, but we're not going to do it in any way. We're going to do it in a specific way. A good example for this is, let's say your vision was to build the biggest burger chain in Berlin, and you've got burger shops all over Berlin. That's your vision, but the contracting value is that it has to be vegan, which which straight away lowers how many possible potential customers you could have. But these combination of vision and values is what makes people care about your business. And the goal of any good Web3 business, or any business indeed, is to turn customers into loyal fans. If you think about what fans for music will do, they will queue for hours and hours, they'll pay very expensive tickets, because they really believe in it. They believe in the whole thing. And a lot of good bands have good values as well. And your goal really is to move away from a company and think more about how can we be a movement. And the thing about a movement is that people who really believe in something, they don't mind working for free. So my advice is to think big, and if you're building something and it doesn't have any vision and values, then don't spend another penny on advertising or marketing or grants or any of this stuff. Think about what you actually stand for and build something people resonate with. Cool. Any questions before I move on to changing the economics of software? Okay, we need to change the economics of software. If you're building a Web 2 app, and I am at the moment, it looks a bit like this. You basically subscribe to a whole bunch of SaaS services and then spend all your time writing code to glue them all together. That is basically the Web 2 world in a nutshell. But what if we're building Web 3 apps? Well, things are slightly different. You see, there was a promise at the very early ages of early start of Ethereum that we would all be able to raise money like this with a crowdsourced contract on the blockchain. And indeed, that certainly did work for a while. Basically, for many months, the Ethereum site looked like this. And of course, then what happened was the ICO summer, as we all know, where lots of very good projects like Status and Gnosis got funded, but also a lot of crazy ones too. The reality of it today, back in 2022, is that it is no longer possible to launch your business on Ethereum from your garage, from your bedroom, you know, the sort of indie project developer idea. And the reason is very simple, because you can't go live with anything in Ethereum now until you pay all the Web 2 hosting costs, but you also pay for audits and legal fees, because everyone doesn't want to go to prison, right? So what does this mean? It means that you're basically forced to go and find funding anywhere else. By the way, a little interjection here, going back to the layer 2s. This is a really good opportunity if you're layer 2 to fix some of these problems, to actually ease the path towards taking an idea from a team and going into production. Okay, but the reality is that you'll probably have to raise some money. Where do you find that money from? Well, we talked about grants. Now, from a developer's perspective, if a layer 2 or layer 1 is giving you free money, you'd be stupid not to take it, right? So there's also angels who you can go to if you've got a super value aligned business and it resonates with them. This is, I think, the best way of doing it. And then, of course, there's the VCs, and we know all about them. Or do you? See, the mark of a true entrepreneur, I think, is not to just go and do what everyone else does, but to try and think outside the box and ask yourself, how can you do more with less? So can you get revenue from day one? That's the question you should ask yourself, because revenue that you're getting means that you're self-sustainable and you're not going to anyone begging for money. You know, please, sir, can I have a scrap of crumbs for my, grant application? So what I want to do is introduce you to the magic power of building in public. The most sort of prolific builder in public at the moment is definitely Levels.io. You probably follow him on Twitter already. If you don't, you definitely should. And he has, over the last few weeks, really sort of launched into the world of AI, building this interior AI startup from nothing in a matter of weeks and getting paying customers. Is absolutely incredible. So watch him for inspiration and start thinking about how you can do the same. Another good source of inspiration is serendipity. I saw I saw Sigil on Twitter, and every few days he was basically saying, hey, we've got more subscribers paying $10 a month. And I just thought this is a really great way of actually launching a business and finding some money that isn't going to VCs. So follow him on Twitter too. The main thing that I want to say is that by thinking outside the box and starting charging either subscriptions or just by selling a small product that people use and can pay for from the start, and by building in public so people know what you're doing and they care about what you're doing, you can basically transform things, and you don't always need to go to VCs. That's my message. Okay, but why do startups need to raise so much money in the first place? Well, the actual thing that they spend most of their money on is full-time employees, I should say. So on the next section, I want to talk about why Web3 companies should embrace multiple jobs. But before I move on, are there any questions at all about what we've talked about so far? No? Good. Okay, Web3 companies should embrace multiple jobs. Why? Because yet again, we find ourselves in yet another crypto cycle. And they all start the same way. They start raising money at crazy valuations. Every VC wants to get in on the round, and they'll pay all sorts of money to get in on the round. Do you remember those days? What essentially they do then is they send a big fat check to the startup, and the startup starts feeling like they have to do something quick. It's like, oh, we just got 20 million, we need to look busy. So what do? We hire way too many people way too quickly. What happens then? Well, inevitably the market cools, as it's doing now, and all the people who've been hired have to make busy work. So busy work is just work that's useless work, but it looks very like they're doing lots of things. Like they're writing lots of blog posts, but nobody's reading them, but they're still writing them, so that's okay. And then essentially what always happens, it's happened 3 times, it's going to happen again, is we enter layoff season, which is where we are right now, where companies realize they've overhired, they've hired all the wrong people, no one's really aligned to any values, maybe they don't even have any, and now they have to lay some people off. And what I really want to say is it doesn't have to be like this. It has been 3 times, it doesn't have to be the next time. And the thing that we really need to break, most of all, is this mindset that everyone has to be hired full time. It's absolutely bonkers. And I know it's what VCs expect, and I know if you've just been given 20 million and they come on a Zoom call and they say, what have you done with our 20 million? And you'll say, well, it's still in the bank and we haven't done anything. They'll be like, what's going on? But it's also what employees want, because they don't know any better either. Most people still assume that if you work full time, you're a real person, you've got a secure job. Well, not very true. If you look at the layoffs, you must be more committed than somebody who's working part time. It also means that lots of the companies will let you go to their company retreat. There's a big sense of, we are one big team together, and it is a sense of identity. That this is what I would say. Most creative, and I stress the word creative jobs, should not be full-time jobs. Why? Because creativity comes from knowing multiple people, using multiple tools, doing multiple different ideas. In fact, the more you can mix your life up with new people, the more ideas you're going to generate. One of the reasons I love being an advisor is because I get to meet so many teams who are amazing, and they all come with different ideas. So multiple sources of income are also a good idea. How many times have we been told, don't keep all your eggs in one basket? And yet, what do most people do? They have many sources of expenses and one source of income. Like literally dependent on this one thing to keep everything else going, and sometimes even a family. Makes no sense. So what we need is a psychological shift as an industry. It's not enough to simply have better technology, we have to work in a smarter way too. So how should it work? Well, this is what I would do. If you want to embrace this, start by tweeting about it. Start telling the world that you're open to working with people on a non-full-time basis. Most crypto companies aren't, so straight away you have an advantage because you're working in a different mindset. Then pay a very small monthly stipend, a reoccurring base fee to people that you trust. You've done the interview, you like them. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but what it does is it signals that you've got access to the Slack group or the Discord group. Maybe you've got a signature on the multi-sig, but basically it's a way of saying, look, we do value you. We want to keep you on board. You can think of it as a retainer, but the key is it's a very small amount. The next thing you should do is make micro commitments. If you want to work with someone as a business, then don't take them on full time. Say, look, these are the things that need doing. Let's agree that we're going to do this report, we're going to make this website, whatever it is, but do them in a micro way. So you're only looking sort of 2 or 3 weeks out maximum. And of course, you will pay well as a business, you will pay employees well for working in this way. But this means that you're now able to start working in a whole new different way. Okay, so the problem is, of course, that when I talk to businesses about this, some startups, then it sort of brings to the surface all sorts of questions of like, how do I know they're committed? Like, these are just part-timers. How do I actually know that they're going to work for my business as well as a full-time person would. And I would say, don't be ever committed to a company. Instead, be committed to vision and values. If you're committed to a set of vision and values, then so long as that company actually obeys those values and they're not just making it all up, and so long as the vision still aligns with what you're believing in, then you will want to work for them just as hard as a full-time employee will, if not harder. Now, there are some exceptions. When is full-time actually a good idea? Well, someone who's legally responsible for something, that makes a lot of sense. Anyone who's head of design or head of security or anything like that, that makes sense. And then anyone who needs a visa. But for most people in this industry, I do not believe they should be working full-time. Of course, employers always benefit too. There's fewer salaries to pay, which means you need to raise less money or maybe no money at all from VCs. And it means that you actually end up as an employer having more new ideas because you have people coming in with greater, wider networks as well. If you want to do more of this sort of thing, I really recommend Opolis. They're a company that let you work for multiple people at once, whether that be multiple DAOs or multiple different crypto companies. So it's opolis.co. And then also, I'll be talking a lot more about this in months and years to come because this is a real passion of mine. For now, if you want to work with people who are on the same wavelength, I really recommend, without any reservation at all, Kirsten, who is the founder of Talent Layer. Talent Layer are trying to really mix things up by making an open protocol for work, just as we've been talking about for email and Lens and so on. And I actually think they're the most exciting startup in this space right now. Okay, so I'm going to talk next about full stack decentralization, but any questions so far before we move on to that? We're good, okay. Right, full stack decentralization. We all have heard many times today about how at the moment there is no decentralization because we're all going through different centralized RPC services. We all know this. It is getting better. Even A16Z are helping here. They're making trustless clients. But the real question I want to bring up is that not everything needs to be on a blockchain in the first place. What do you think of a blockchain as, and what do we actually need it as? Well, I think of it as global state and timestamping, and not everything necessarily needs global state and timestamping. When Ethereum first came out, the plan was to offer this consensus execution layer, which is what we've got. But also, at the early days of Ethereum, it was a three-pronged approach. There was also messaging and storage. Messaging today, messaging originally was going to be Whisper, and Whisper is now superseded by a much better designed by the Status team, and it's called Waku.org. So if you want decentralized messaging in your app, I definitely recommend checking Waku out. You've already heard, I think, about Swarm. It's really nice to see that the Swarm team are back and stronger than ever. Swarm, of course, was one of the sort of key pillars of Ethereum in the early days, so this is really good. But what happens if you don't need a blockchain at all? Well, one project that very few people know about, which I want to bring your attention to, is Gun.js. Gun.js is a WebRTC database that lives in the browser. It doesn't use a blockchain. In fact, the founder is famously very anti-blockchain, but it is very good for places where you've got very bad internet connectivity, and is also a primitive you can use to build very good decentralized systems. But the one that I'm most excited about by far is Urbit. Urbit to me is basically the most exciting technology that I'm immersing myself in at the moment. Not only is Urbit a private OS that sits on your computer, or indeed you can run it in the cloud and take it different places, but it allows you to have peer-to-peer chat groups and peer-to-peer chat as a native primitive out of the box. On top of Urbit, many people won't know this, but there's now a layer 2, and a good one I think, on top of Urbit called Uqbar. And Uqbar is a way of connecting your private OS Urbit to the rest of the Ethereum world through a layer 2, written in Hoon, which is Urbit's contract language, and, actual language, and from there you go to Startnet, and from Startnet you roll up onto Ethereum layer 1. So this is super interesting. If you want to be at the absolute bleeding edge of this industry, look at Urbit and look at Uqbar. And then the next thing I want to show you is this thing called Holium. I only found out about this a few days ago, and I sent it to all my friends basically saying this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in technology this year. And this is what happens when you combine Urbit and Ethereum and blockchain together. So this is a whole new different browsing environment. It's not the web. It's a whole new look on how we can have native primitives and build a whole different experience. So I've never seen anything as interesting as this all year. So you've got native wallets, you've got basically a way of doing conversations and community and keeping that inside your Urbit, so you're not using any SaaS services. So very, very interested in this. I'll just let that play out because I think there's another second or so of it. Okay, so composable primitives are the way forward. What we need to do is start thinking about composability again, starting to build tools that other people can build on top of. And just to show you just how weird Urbit is, this is the Urbit Hoon language. So this is how you write a DAO in Hoon. This is completely next level crazy, but I love it so much. And if you join Urbit now, you'll be one of the very first early adopters of it. And you get yourself a free pseudo-anonymous, I can't say that word, pseudo-anon name, and a free PFP, which is auto-generated from the name. It's very clever, and this is mine here. So, in conclusion, the way that I feel about Urbit is exactly how I felt about Ethereum in 2014. It has the same vibes. Very good people who are obsessed with values, who build things because they believe in decentralization. You definitely do not want to sleep on this. Okay. What is big today may not be big tomorrow. I'm coming to the end of the talk. When I first moved to London, I could not believe that was back in 2007, I could not believe that every single person on the tube who worked in a corporate had one of these BlackBerry phones, and they were all frantically typing away on the tube and in elevators and so on. But pretty soon, they completely disappeared off the face of the earth. What happened is Apple came out with its phone with instead of a plastic keyboard, it was a touch-sensitive screen, and everybody just thought that was a much better idea, and they moved to it overnight. And I look at this example, and I remind myself of it constantly to not have tunnel vision. It's very easy in this industry to think that we're in the best tribe, we're in the best technology, blah, 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 and I've been guilty of that too. In fact, when this current cycle came around, I could not understand why anyone wanted to use any other layer one than Ethereum, because Ethereum to me was just where all the smart people were. Until somebody said to me, well, do you mean that whale chain? And it just shocked me. It shocked me so much because from my perspective, it's just what I've always been used to. But from a new person's perspective coming in, they see something like Binance Chain as a much cheaper alternative. And they think that anything on Ethereum is way too expensive and it's only for whales. So it was a real sort of jarring moment to me to make me think, well, I've always got to step back and question my assumptions, question my beliefs, and look at the whole picture, not just get invested in one particular thing. So I believe our job at this community, in this Ethereum community, is to make ourselves obsolete. And the sooner we do it, the sooner we move on. So things that are interesting to me right now are, for example, how do we go beyond Solidity? Well, something I've found that I really like is the Sway programming language, which has things like the reentrance bug designed out of it, so you just simply can't do that. You can't shoot yourself in the foot. And then, of course, I'm really interested also what the work at Aztec is doing. The key thing here is to keep looking and keep looking ahead and to never get complacent. So what is the next big language? It takes me to the end of this talk. At the moment, I talked at DevCon to people about AI, and most of the response I get is, oh, it's way in the future, it's not going to affect us, we shouldn't be thinking about it at the moment. And I disagree entirely on all of this. We've seen what AI has done this year. Only a few days ago, I actually installed Stable Diffusion on my phone, and it was locally making images on my phone. Not very fast, but it works. It's incredible how things have progressed. We now have new search engines like Metaphor, which work in a very different way to Google. They find information in a different way. We also have new prototyping tools like Text to Figma, where you can ask Figma to design you something based on a prompt. And the thing with all of this is that things are progressing quickly, and there's no doubt about it. Like, I really think that we're entering this golden age of AI. So we can't simply sit and watch this happen as is a complete different silo that's not at all connected to the crypto industry. So what I think we should be doing instead is first of all celebrating where we are. We're at this very small point where we have no regulation. There's no regulation at all on AI. It will change probably next year, but at the moment you can do anything you want with it. There's also no product placement. Have you thought about this? When this is a stable diffusion image I generated of an American diner, and what's going to be on the table? Is it going to be a Coke can, or is it going to be a Pepsi can? Right now, it will depend on who pays, eventually it will depend on who pays the most to these commercial companies. But at the moment, we have nothing like this. It's a real green field. So what has this got to do with Web3? So I talk to people in here and at the foundation about the importance of thinking about AI. And most times, everyone says to me, oh, yes, I know AI. You're talking about GitHub Copilot. This is what most people think about. And it's interesting to me that even Andrej Karpathy, the amazing genius behind Tesla Autopilot, also thinks that coding in the future will be like Copilot. And I really think that's not the case at all. In fact, I think it's a way that we're trapped in this existing paradigm of thought. We think at the moment that coding is typing English language text. It has all these English words in it, and it lives in a text file. And we think this will be the future of coding, but we think it's just going to be that the AI starts writing some of these functions for us. And I say, no, let's throw that model out of the window entirely. My prediction is instead that eventually all the bytecode that we use in computing and certainly on the blockchain will eventually be written by AI, and it won't have any of this English language text file thing at all. In fact, if anyone is offering you an escape hatch to text language, sort of text-based, I would say that's not going to be the winning solution. This means if we have our AI writing the bytecode, it means we don't have to write a unit test ever again. We don't have to write in any integration tests. We don't have to pay for audits or wait for the auditor to come back and say it's okay when there's a 6-month waiting list. And hopefully, if the actual system is designed from the beginning, then there'll be no hacks too. But most of all, the golden opportunity that awaits all of us right now is that how can we build a world where everyone can make a decentralized application just with a prompt, just with maybe a prompt and a few interactive screens that say, hey, do you really mean this? Or have you thought about this? Or it looks like this thing may shoot yourself in the foot, and basically is guiding you through this process. So I conclude this talk because I know that somewhere somebody is working on this, and I would really love to help. So if you know of anyone who's either smart enough to build this or you're interested in it, please do send me an email, owen@owenbarnes.com. And that's the end. So finally, I just want to say thank you so much to the organizers of this amazing event. There's very few people in this industry who really have the right values, I think, and live and breathe them daily. And it is an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. I think we've got 7 minutes, so we're good. Yeah, go for it.
Mic check.
Yeah, cool. Go for it.
And basically, a lot of the guys were very anti-privacy on layer 2s and really felt they had to be baked in at layer 1. So effectively, the Ethereum, Bitcoin, the ship's kind of sailed.
Yeah.
For those sort of, I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Where do you sit?
Do we need to bake privacy in at layer 1?
Yeah.
Sadly, I think we probably do. Yeah. I mean, it may not look like the blockchains that we're thinking at the moment. It may need to be a different sort of design. But no, I actually, it's not that we can't make things any better, but you know, if we've got layer ones with accounts and things like that, and there's still those inter-account transactions which tie everything together, and there's nothing like Tornado, so you can actually skip from something to another anonymously, then yeah, I think we may need a different design. Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a,
yeah,
I have a bit of a loose question, but so you sort of speak about things that are super bleeding edge in an industry that is super bleeding edge.
Yeah.
That to most of people, even in like developed world, just means nothing.
Yeah.
Do you have some thoughts on sort of this gap increasing over time, and is sort of like the majority going to be able to catch up with these ideals at some foreseeable future?
So sorry to do this, everybody. There's only 5 minutes left to vote for your projects and stuff like that. So literally in 5 minutes, that will be over. So now is the time to vote. You haven't voted already. Sorry.
That's okay. Good point. If I rephrase the question to how do we make sure that everyone catches up? Is that what you're asking? Okay. The thing is that we all come into this world with different skill sets, and there's lots of things that I know I'm good at and lots of things I'm really bad at, you know, and I don't have the brain that can do the sort of super detailed Solidity programming very well. But I do have a brain that sees things holistically and sees like where we're heading generally in the future. So it's not so much about catching up. I think it's just about allowing us all to do what the bits that we're good at. Like if I ever write a Solidity contract, you know, God help us, you know, it's not going to work. So it's more about sort of setting the visions and the values of what we believe in. And what I really care about with this all this AI stuff, I'm so glad Stable Diffusion actually happened, because my greatest fear when DALL-E came out was that this would just be in the hands of corporations forever. And I think it's not just about guiding the way in terms of vision, but it's about walking, you know, like walking the talk, isn't it? Like, and making sure that you do build things with the right values from the start. Yeah. One at the back there.
Wow, inspiring talk. Thanks a lot, Barnes.
Can you do it much more loudly?
Thanks a lot for the talk,
Okay.
Owen. Very inspiring. You were talking that you think charities will most likely all sometime live on the blockchain, or...
Sorry, I still can't hear.
Oh.
You just...
I'm close, like so?
Okay, yeah.
It's better? Okay.
Yeah, really loudly.
You mentioned that you think in the future charities will most likely live on the blockchain, or and because of they will need to be fully transparent. And are there some projects right now you think are going in the right direction, or some?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of absolute transparency for income and expenses, I don't know of any. I would love to find some. But in terms of impact giving, then as I say, Doing Good are just an amazing team. GiveEth is another one. Trusted Seed is another one. All really good. You know, so these are, you know, teams I can personally endorse because I know. Yeah, so loads of people are doing the thing. But what I would like to see is like a transparent charity. Oh, and Juicebox as well is another good team that are working on good things like this. But I would love to see like a transparent charity in a box sort of solution where it's a white labeled service where anyone can be a charity, change your logo, change your name, but anyone who donates any money can instantly follow where that money's going. And you know, it's not a bad thing if people who work at charities want to pay themselves a salary. My issue is that most people haven't even got a clue how to find that out. And even if they do find it out, they're finding it out 1 year later, you know, when they come to do their annual reports.
Anybody else?
Are you done?
I actually have another question.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about sort of private individuals having this sort of full privacy of transactions, and then flipping that with public corporations, where are sort of the small businesses and sort of on the scale? So you know, people usually start a business as a freelancer,
Yes.
and then register as a company, and then maybe it becomes public. So
Yes.
how would that transition work?
Well, I would say that a private business is a private business. But when I say public institution, I really mean taxpayer funded or donation funded. Like, you know, if you're doing an ocean cleanup or something, great, but let me see where my donation is actually going. But somebody who's a private baker, you know, they're a little family baker, you know, I don't think that, in my mind, although it's certainly a more grey line, I certainly think that they're entitled to their privacy too. So, yeah.
And like huge public, huge like private corporations, like how could we sort of incentivize them?
Well, I think that's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, why do we let these companies get so big in the first place? Is the issue there? But I mean, hopefully, like, we just generally move to a world that if you are employing anyone, and then you know you try and your very best, at least where possible, to be a bit more open and transparent about things. And I do think this is where the blockchain can help us. Yeah. Okay. Well done. Okay. Thank you very much.
One. You may have noticed the time. The winner has been revealed, so it's probably public knowledge by now. Yep. All right. Don't look.
think it's just Bryce now.
No, jasně.
Tak aspoň je to vyhrál někdo, kdo to něco udělal.
Tak jo? Tak mám... Okay. Hi, everyone. How are you feeling? Anyone's tired? Really? What have you been doing for the last 3 days? Thank you all. Thank you everyone for participating and helping out. I'm really exhausted, so some of the stuff I'm gonna say may not make sense. So, we have the winners, but first of all, let me thank you, let me thank the judges, let me thank the advisors, even those online. Big thank to you, because some of the projects I've seen are pretty amazing and especially and useful, which is the most important part. And a big thank and a round of applause for all the volunteers and the organization team. So, what did we achieve? At the end, we had 100 participants, so the no-show was pretty high. I'm not gonna speculate about the reasons. I hope it has nothing to do with FTX and all the stuff going on. You had 40 hours of hacking, so it's pretty impressive that we had around, I guess, 13 projects applying. You heard more than 30 talks. I hope some of them gave you some ideas and even some insight what to do or helped with the projects. You didn't drink much. That's surprising. So all of you together had like 60 liters of beers, which is, if I'm not mistaken, like 20% of consumption of one Czech person in a year. So shame on you. We're gonna fix that tonight, I hope. About the prizes, you've seen them. Let's check the winners. But before that, I want to thank the sponsors again. Without especially Ethereum Foundation, we would not be here. As I was mentioning at the beginning, themed hackathons are not that popular. It's pretty rare. So thanks to Ethereum Foundation and all these other sponsors, it was the only way how we could afford to pay for the event, for your food, and for some prices. Thanks. And also, again, all the volunteers, speakers, mentors, judges, everyone. And to you. So, who are the winners? Do you want to guess? Anyone? So, first part are the Meta Awards. And I'm going to ask judges to announce those and also give you some little extra treats. We have some books and t-shirts and then some goodies from Ledgers. and judges will judges will tell you how they decided and why they decided. And if you want, you can give a little sneak peek to your project or give some words about it. So, passing the word to Annette.
Wow. Hi, hi friends. So thank you so much everyone for coming to Brno. It was all the way, it was kind of journey for everybody to come here, and on behalf of judges, we would like to thank you to everybody who submitted their project to the folio and who actually participated in this hackathon. From judges' perspective, it was kind of unsure. Like we were in many times we weren't unsure like which project to pick, as there were so many amazing projects that we've been voting. But we came up with the decisions to announce the winners, and I'm just going to try to guess which category is first, and then drum roll please, because I'm not sure which one category will show up now. Okay, innovation, okay. So, thank you. So private line of credit team, can we ask them to come in the front so... I did, yeah. So congratulations. We are going to give you a prize, and then feel free to tell us a little bit about your project, just very briefly. Congratulations. Can we have somebody to take a picture of us? Yeah, okay.
So, shall I say something now?
Yeah, say something about the project.
Okay, so quite fast. I work for the financial industry, and I see that now that zero knowledge proof are becoming mainstream or are becoming popular, it's a great opportunity for using them to start providing financial services on-chain. So, well, this is basically a demo of the amount of things that we can do on-chain while keeping privacy between financial institutions and users. That is what we all care about. Thank you.
Okay, so to the next category, right? The category was smart contracts. Unfortunately, there was not that many projects which actually built some smart contract, which also I was pretty sad about. But nevertheless, the winner of this category is Censorship Game. Please, round of applause. Come here and tell us a little bit about your project.
All right. Wait, Valentin, come up here. I got teammates here who aren't coming up. I don't know why. Thank you. Thank you. Are we taking a picture now? Or? Oh, okay. No. Okay, and the only thing I want to say is that we're going to try to play it later after this ceremony. So if you want to play the game, come find us. All right.
And then we had a third category, which was design. So we had some discussions what design is. Is it architectural or is it UI design? And we decided that it's design. So without further ado, the winner for the design category is Lunar Wallet.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you. So, thank you for all of your votes first, for the community vote. We are pretty happy that you could be some maybe users of what we built during this hackathon. And thanks for the judge, if you liked our project. And basically, what's the most important for us is that, again, guys, if you would like to maybe give some feedbacks, maybe want to try it, feel free to come. We can try it with you. And on DevFolio, you have the GitHub repo, so you can build it directly and use it on Google Chrome. We have our Canva, so you can contact us directly on Telegram too. That would be a pleasure to have your opinion. Thank you.
Alrighty, so we forgot to mention that each of these projects received $1,000. And now the quadratic voting prizes. Yeah. In quadratic voting, we had 3 prizes. The first one was $500, and the third spot got Meteorite. Okay, guys, congratulations. Would you like to tell us about your project?
I guess they know. They voted. And thanks for believing in us, guys. Well played.
Okay, and now the second and first place, if I'm not mistaken, only one vote was deciding. So it was pretty tight. Second spot, Team Soika. Okay, guys. You are getting some nice prizes from Ledger, so enjoy your new hardware wallets. Okay. Did anyone here lost their soulbound token, the paper? Is there such a person?
Steal my.
Okay. Would you like to tell us about Soika? Few words.
Say it. It's yours. No?
Hello. Soika is the app that helps you to secure your transactions before you sign it.
Just a cool thing about this hackathon. We literally started from zero. Well, we're brainstorming the idea on Friday night. We tried several really blind ways, trying to use the MetaMask snaps, trying to fork the MetaMask, and you know, crazy other ways to do that. So we spent like 24 hours on finding the way until we decided on how to actually do that. So literally from the zero, and we were put together just on the spot over here. It was like a crazy ride. till now, till 11 o'clock. So thanks all, and thanks all the mentors, thanks all the people over here that we had a chance to discuss it, and to discuss even that you convinced us to create the API there. That was your ideas which we actually changed the way how actually Circle works.
I just wanted to say that we started from scratch 4 times, not only once.
Okay, thank you guys. We appreciate that. And the final prize. So the winner of $2,000 that got only one more vote than Soika is Lunar Wallet. So, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were getting points in both sections, right? So, that paid off. Congratulations.
Again, thank you to everyone. Yeah, thank you. So thank you to everyone. I think we can all thank the organizers of this hackathon because it was quite amazing. And so same for the judge, the volunteers, the mentors, and all the staff. And I think we can thank all ourselves to hack. I mean, that's not something like usual. So congrats to you. You can applaud you. So yeah, basically, thanks.
Thank you.
Team maybe?
Oh, sure. Can we maybe welcome the team, volunteers, or even judges for the final picture? And then right after that, let's have a cheers on everything you achieved here. We're gonna have some beer and Prosecco, or non-alcoholic beer. I could not notice that no one's drinking that, which is surprising. So let's finish all the drinks here and then move to the after party. So I'm just, yeah, last final picture with the team and all the volunteers, or maybe even all of the winners. We would like to have you all in one picture. Come up, guys. Last. Last thing you need to do, and then we can relax and drink. Should I take that? Woo! Okay, let's have the party started. Oh, okay. Okay. And if there is somebody leaving and not joining the after party, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you next year, maybe on bigger Lunar Punk event. So, thank you again. Bye.